Hello everyone, welcome back to RJK English. Today we're going to continue our talk about educating our children and society's problems that come from this. So societal problems that come from this. So I'm going to use China as an example again because I know a bit about this. And again, I'm not criticizing China's government. I think they are really thinking well about how to structure their society. So, and this is a lot of the way things happen in the United States as well. And I know that this is the way things happen in India and Korea, and I think Japan might be somewhat similar. So in Beijing right now, if you Beijing is split up into districts, just like in the United States. School districts. If you buy a house in District 1, it costs a lot of money. Crazy amounts of money. Why do people live there? Because their child can go to the District 1 school. And that school, I have a star by it because it is world class. World class school. They are almost sure that they will go to Beijing University, which is like going to Harvard, or if you're in India, IIT, or even maybe University of Delhi, but IIT or something like that. Or, yeah. So people spend a lot of money on housing in order to go here. Okay? The other districts, maybe this one is somewhat expensive. This one, and these are expensive but not as expensive, and these schools aren't as good. Okay, so everybody wants to go to these. So China has changed. We talked about last time that China wanted, it seems, we don't know for sure, that they want people to have more children, right? They want to have a higher birth rate. Why would this get in the way of people having a higher birth rate? Think about it this way. I know my students that are in Seoul, Korea, they are having a lot of problems with housing prices. And because of housing prices, people aren't getting married or people aren't having children. Why? Because it's so expensive to live in Seoul. But Seoul has the jobs. Seoul, I don't know exactly how Korean education works. They might have the better schools. Okay? So what China has done is they've said, we have a lottery system now for children. Lottery. Meaning each child will randomly be chosen to go to one of these schools. So now a person from this district can go to this school if they win the lottery. And a person from this district might go to this school or this school. Now imagine how angry you would be if you bought the house in the really good district so that your child will go to that school and now you don't know whether they'll go there. It's really bad, right? You would be very angry. And I guess there are some protests, but that happens. This happens in the United States as well. So I live in a neighborhood called Hamden in Baltimore. It's a nice neighborhood. You know, we have an okay school for the kids to go to. If I go 1 mile north, I would be in Roland Park. In Roland Park, it's public education, so paid for by the government, but it is world class. So literally, if my children would go 1 mile north, they would have a world class education. If I moved south to Columbia or Ellicott City, they would have a world class education. But I don't necessarily want my children to go there. Why? We can talk about that. But looking at this situation, how is China's decision for the lottery going to affect housing prices? Are people going to pay this amount of money to live in this area anymore? Not necessarily, right? So all of a sudden, people can't charge as much for houses. So houses are going to become more normal. It will become that, you know, maybe there is a bit of a difference, but it won't be because of the school district. Housing prices will become more normalized. This can help people in those cities. Remember last time we made up our own solution for China. I'm not as smart as the Chinese government, so this is just hypothesizing in order to apply it to our own lives, right? I said, what if people could work remotely from the city so that they could have the good jobs but live in the areas where housing prices weren't as high? So that would be one. But China chose to deal with the city itself, make houses more affordable, and make it so that people couldn't choose what school they were going to. They wouldn't know. Okay? So that does affect housing prices. Why does that help the birth rate? Because people aren't paying as much to have children. When I have a child, I don't have to pay so much money to make sure that I'm here so that they can go to this school, right? I don't have to pay, and we already learned that China is canceling these businesses that do extra education outside of school, right? So now people aren't paying as much for their child, so they can have more children. That's one way to approach this. What's another way to approach this, though? What about this? Equal opportunity for all citizens. So the first problem is the birth rate. And so that's about, we want more children. Okay? The second one is saying, it's not about how many children there are. There are a lot of children. We want each child to have the same opportunity in life. What if we approached it that way? Well, if we do that, there's still a problem here. There's still a problem. What is that problem? The housing prices are the same. You don't know what school they're going to go to. There's still a school that is world class and the others are not, right? So there's still inequality. This is not the Chinese government's fault. I'm just saying this is the same in my city. Okay, this is a problem everywhere. I know in India it's a problem. China has, in the past, tried to deal with equality the same way that India did. And I think maybe the same way as Korea. I don't know for sure. What is that? They say, we have a huge population. And some of them are poor. You know, in India, a lot of them are poor. In China, I think a lot of them are working class. You know, they can't own a lot of things. How do we make education equal? Because rich people can always buy education, right? They said, we will base it on testing. And this is the way it is in India, and it's the way it is in China. The poorest person, if they study and have the intellect, they can pass this test that everyone has to take. If they get high scores, they get into Beijing University, or they get into another university. That's a way of equalizing opportunity. We don't have that in the United States. In the United States, it's highly unequal because of how much it costs to go to school. You know, it's somewhat equal. I mean, you can take tests, but a lot of getting into the top schools is about, did your parents go there? How much do you want to pay for school? Things like that. It's not necessarily equal. So I commend China and India for this. But now let's look at equal opportunity in this situation. What's still the problem? There's still a school that is world class and these aren't. How do you change that? Well, some things might change because these rich people are used to getting what they want, right? When they go into these other schools, the government could take a hands-off approach, meaning they're not trying to change things. By making the rich people go into these other schools, those rich people will have the same expectations of those other schools that they did of this one. And then the school itself will become better and everyone will benefit. That's one way, right? Another way is the government could invest in the schools themselves. This is kind of like the last time, and I don't know what China's going to do. This is kind of like the last time where we talked about investing in office space throughout the country and in internet infrastructure so that everyone can have the same access to opportunity via the internet and etc. to work from home and things like this. Well, if all the schools are good, now parents can relax knowing that their child is going to get everything they need out of that school so that they can pass this test, right? That's one way of doing it. In the United States, we have a big problem with this. So in my city, we have world-class education. Johns Hopkins is in my city, right? Johns Hopkins is world class. Roland Park is world-class education, publicly funded. Next to it are some of the poorest areas you've ever seen. There are parts of Baltimore that look like a third world country, a developing country. The streets are cracked and broken. Why? Because of this. We have districts as well. And the tax money from these districts funds the schools and it funds the streets, how the streets are taken care of. Think about how that encourages inequality. Rich people make sure to move to an area. They make more money, right? So tax revenue goes up. That goes into the schools. They have world-class schools. In the other, you have, in my city, there are insane amounts of people that are below the poverty level or at or below the poverty level or lower working class. What are their school districts like? You wouldn't believe it. Some of them don't have heat or air conditioning in this city where that's normal to have that. Their schools are violent. The teachers are underpaid. And it's really bad. Like, if you go to that school, basically you're not going to succeed in life. You're doomed. You know, that's not an equal way of doing things. So tax revenue should not fund those things. That is unfair. So somehow in the US we need to make this more equal, but in the US we are not interested in this because rich people want to stay rich, and also there's a problem with racism. So there you go. But see how if we look at it from the different problems, if we identify a different problem, if the problem's birth rate, we look at it one way. Make it cheaper, force it to be cheaper for people to have children. If we look for equal opportunity, it makes us look at it a little bit different. Because here, 500 kids out of, let's say, 10,000. 500 kids get to go to this school. The other 9,500 go to the others. That produces a group of people that are highly educated while others aren't. And that produces an unequal society. So how do we solve this? One of my students said we have to change expectations. So this means for your child, as a Chinese parent, you say, my child doesn't need to go to Beijing University. They can get a normal job and be happy. That's one way of dealing with it. So even in the US, we could say, what is happiness? You know, do I have to be looked up to by everyone? Oh, he has an amazing job, so he's amazing, blah, 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 blah. Or is it about making a good life and being happy in yourself without having to be honored for having more money than someone else? That's one way of solving it. That's individual. But also, our countries could invest in making sure people have more equal lives, so that it's not that I have to look up to that person and feel below them, right? That's one way. Yeah. So anyways, I hope this is interesting to you. Tell me about what you think about the education system in your country. Make sure to like and subscribe and comment. Thank you to my friend who's been commenting from India. I'll get back to you really soon. And yeah, I will see you guys soon. All right, bye.